Alright, well let's get started. What do you want to make? Anybody have any preferences? Any preferences of a very loosely based character design? Okay, I'll just make a basic person. The first thing I'm going to do is, since we won't really be rendering, is I'm going to get rid of the camera and the lamp. These scenes. And then, okay, I guess let's start here. We got this square. Let's turn this square into a person, right? So let's pull it up. Let's hit Tab to go into edit mode, and then we'll get these vertices that we can manipulate. If you hit this little icon down here, it allows you to see through your box, which is nice, because that way you can just grab edges like so, and you can pull up, down, left, right, do what you got to do with them. But for this purpose, what we're going to do is we're going to use this ability called a loop cut, which if you do Control R while in my mode, you can get this little line that'll show you where you'll be making new vertices at and where it connects. So I'm going to do that a few times on this box just to give me some more vertices to play with. And by all means, you guys don't have to follow along with exactly what I'm doing. I highly recommend you kind of try and personalize it the best you can, just for the joy of doing that. So let's give it a little bit of dimensions to make it look a little more round. And I mean, a lot of Blender really is just this. I mean, you're grabbing these little points and you're moving them to where you want them to be. There's a lot of shortcuts that you can do, like you can grab 2 at a time, and then you can hit the R key, I believe, or you can go down here manually and you can adjust it. You have the move tool, which moves it left, right, forward, back. You have the rotate tool, which is the middle, which allows you to do just that, rotate it around the axis. And you have this tool, which is like not an extruder, but it'll move the vertices. Scale. Yeah, scale. Thank you. Exactly, scale. That's exactly what it is. And that will just help for doing things a little bit faster. I mean, this is not going to look too great, but that's okay. I'm just kind of go here, just trying to get it as. So
can you grab it?
Yeah.
How do you move it up? I'm having trouble actually moving it. You can't just click and drag, right?
No, you click and drag, and then if you're
and then press G, or
well, you can press Q to toggle in and out of. Q and W will toggle between having. Are you unable to get the arrows, I guess?
Well, I can click on it, like if I can highlight it.
Here, let me. Just click a vertex and hit W, and it should pop up.
you can let this.
Yeah, that's how you manually do it.
Okay.
I think it's GWT and R. That's what's going to give you a function of the right?
There's all kinds of options that work. Like I use G for grab and S for scale and R for rotate.
Yeah, which is good to know all of those, because once you get into UV mapping, we're going to have to manipulate vertices inside of a UV map, and those controls are all done with standard Blender presets, with like G to move, so on and so forth. Okay, so we have this really crappy, deformed looking ball, right? And it's like, wow, why would anyone ever do that? The coolest thing about Blender is you can just take it, right? You can delete it. Let's delete all vertices. Actually, hit Tab and go to Object Mode, and let's just delete the object altogether. And then you can go down here to the Add button, and you can go to Mesh, and then you can add in a sphere, which is really nice because look at that. It's all done perfectly and excellent for us. And then you can can change the attributes of the sphere. Here, I think we need to add a new one from scratch. And we can make it have a lot less segments and a lot less rings. Here, I'll zoom in on it so you guys can see up close. Oh wait, dang it, sorry. I gotta start maybe another cube real quick. Yeah, so we can highly minimize the amount of segments it has, as well as the amount of rings right here. So let's just do something a lot less face count, because you always want to keep face count in mind when you're creating meshes for games, because that's what's going to determine how optimal the game will run for your system. So if you look at that, like, okay, that might be a decent starting point for a head, right? So let's extrude down and let's start making the body. What I would like to do is grab this middle vertice down here in the bottom, and let's go ahead and delete that vertice, which will give us this nice little hole down here to work with. And then if you do Shift-Alt-click on a vertice, or you can go down here also, then you have these three options between vertice, line, and face select. You can also do it on line, but I typically am almost always in vertice unless I need to change it for some reason. For example, right, so I click that vertice and now it's giving me this whole line segment. So this would be an example where you could use line. Click line, and then you go right in the middle between the two vertices and click it. That'll give you this nice circle there. And now what we're going to do is extruding, and extruding is kind of probably the most used tool that you do in all of Blender. It's really handy, and it's very nice. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over here and click extrude region and drag it straight down like this. Here, I'll show you. For here on the side, extrude region, or I think you can hit E. Is it E? Okay. Yeah, E to extrude. Oh, no, not in Blender mode. Or not in Maya mode. Shift E, Control E. No.
Try space.
Nope. See, they changed all these keybinds, man. It's driving me nuts. Alt X is apparently what it is now. That makes absolutely zero sense. So if you hit extrude first, what I like to do is I like to right click, which if you right click, I'll walk you guys through this. So extruding, right, you hit the extrude button and then it snaps to wherever your mouse is, right? So it'll follow your mouse around regardless of where it goes. But now that doesn't really give you the most accurate way of being able to place it. So what I like to do is just right click it and it'll bring it back to its original starting location. And then from here you can give a lot more, you can create with a lot more accuracy by dragging it this way with the arrow keys, which will drag it directly on the part that you want to drag it on.
Also,
yeah, you can snap also with the magnet, this little magnet button down here. You can snap, which a lot of people like to use. I personally don't do it that often. Alright, so let's look at this guy. That's his neck. It's kind of a big neck, right? So let's go ahead and grab the entire neck, like so. Go into our scale tool, which is this button right here. Let's grab the outer edge of the circle, because that will scale everything uniformly. And let's just bring it in a little bit.
So you just grab the entire region.
Yeah, just grab the entire, I'm in line mode right now, which might work a little bit better than vertice mode. But I guess you can do it in vertice mode too. And you just grab the whole thing just like that, right? And then you go down here to your scale tool. You don't want to click that. And I mean, if you scale just off like the y-axis, for example, Blender's y and z's are all different than what we typically have as y and z. See how it's only going to scale the y-axis. That's what I was saying. You want to grab the edge opposite of all of the scalable areas, and from there you can really scale the whole thing uniformly, which is nice. So let's give it a nice little neck there. Let's bring this guy. Let's bring this top part in a little bit as well. Now let's grab all of it. Let's move it up just a hair. Alright, now our guy's head is looking really messed up. That's okay.
How do you zoom in?
Mouse wheel? Or, If you don't have, yeah. Ooh. It's a great question. Yeah, you can F to focus. It'll focus in on the object that you currently have selected. Is that working for you? It might be,
It'd be an object mode.
no. You should be able to have anything selected, hit F, and it should focus on it. Or you could hit the period button on your num lock, or on your 10 key. But I think that's old key binding, so I don't think that's how it works anymore.
F works though.
F does?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that should be that for you. Okay, and now let's give him. Let's start working on the body. Let's get something going here. So let's grab these bottom vertices again. We're gonna go in and we're gonna extrude it one more time. Extrude to about maybe here. Might be good. Oh, I'm gonna go a little farther. Sorry, I'm gonna go about there. I'm gonna make this neck just a skosh longer. Now let's get it from the side here, or straight on. It really does not matter. We're gonna grab one of the sides here. Those guys. Let's make it 2 more. Actually, you know what? No, I'll teach you guys that another day. I'm gonna teach. Ideally, what we'll do when we're making meshes is we're only make half of the mesh, and then Blender has this awesome function into it called mirror mode, to where it can just mirror everything that you've made. But since this is going to be super basic, we won't even worry about that right now. We'll save that for another day. So let's grab this little section here, and then let's extrude it out to kind of give them sort of a shoulder and sort of start making the basic look of the actual body itself. Gosh, man, I continuously am hitting all these old keybinds for Blender. I feel like I'm such a noob.
Another thing we can check on is the figure shows what object it would do.
Yeah, I should turn that on. Actually, I'll turn that on right now. Is it on window? Is it? No.
There's, like, what's the, you know the hotkey to open the right-hand toolbar?
Yes, T or N, one of those two.
It's at the bottom of N, I thought.
Oh, yeah. I think you're alright. Down here?
Uh,
Maybe it's only in object mode.
No, I guess not. Well, okay, let's see.
Okay, well, let me just find this real quick. Sorry, guys. You know what? I think for sake of time.
I'll look for one.
Okay, sure. Okay. So let's get back to this guy, right? All right, let's continue making a shoulder. Get that. Let's try and make it as straight as possible. Once it gets to this edge, that'll be a little easier to work with. What I like to do is when I'm trying to work with large sections like that, and I have this, or not necessarily large sections, but any sections, I grab all of it at once, at least the biggest amount that I can, and I move that all at a time. Then I just will hold shift click, and I'll shift click the individual vertices that I no longer want to move. Just will help you a little bit, trying to get things uniform, like such. Okay, now let's do the Control R to do a loop cut here in the middle of this. Give it a little more dimensions as well. Actually, I don't really like this. Let's move a few of these. Let's move this back in a little bit here. And let's move this side as well back in a little bit there. Kind of give it a little more look to it. And now let's grab let's go into face mode down here. This is this button down here. Click that to toggle face mode. And this might be one of those times you want to turn off the see-through ability, so you can just box select like so, and you don't have to worry about going through and selecting everything else in the process. Welcome. We got to sign in with your name, and then tell us all your name, and then tell us all of your favorite video game, or a game you really like to play, or something that inspires you. Okay, that's an acceptable answer. It might be missing. I highly doubt it. I'm sure it's in here somewhere, but. All right, so let's get back to this arm. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to see-through mode. I'm going to put a new cut here. That way we can give him a little bit of a tricep looking, trapezoid looking definition. So we can grab these verts, take away see-through mode, and grab these verts. I'm going to try and uniform them up a little bit. Let's just grab maybe these three. Let's give it just a little raise there. Let's grab the neck three as well. Up there, maybe the middle one. Just keep going up. Now it's gonna have that little bit of sort of kind of give him a trapezoid look. I guess that we don't need to worry about too much detail though for this, for the base of what we're trying to do today. So let's go ahead and let's give him his arm now, right? So let's grab that. Let's extrude out again, maybe to about here. Now let's extrude again, maybe to about there. Alright, now what we're going to do is, oh, this is another cool little trick. So we have this hole, right, and we're going to need to eventually fill it. Really wish that I was using the old Blender with all the old keybinds, because I'm guessing F will no longer fill because it zooms in. Yeah, okay, so we'll have an option with this mesh, I'm sure, here somewhere to fill. Do you know what the keybind is to fill on for, oh, here we go. Face is fill. Oh, but that did not turn out very well. It did not look great. We know. Maybe this is in face mode. Doesn't fill. It's just no. That's not what we want.
Yeah, no, do it again, but then don't do anything. Do it again. Now, is beauty checked? I can't quite see.
Beauty is checked.
Unchecked.
That still doesn't really work for what we want. You know, that's okay. We won't worry about that for now. We'll have a giant hole in the middle of our dude, so that's okay. Okay, so back to extruding his arms out. Sorry for anyone who's just following along there that just got totally thrown off. We're going to extrude his arm twice. Give it a nice little, more or less, arm look to it. We're going to grab these faces here. I want to extrude them down because it's the body. Grab these. I'm going to turn on window, or this little see-through mode, transparency. Pull it in for a little bit of body definition. Alright, now let's go ahead and do that to the same side, to the other side, I mean. out. There's the shoulder. And for sake of time, we're going to do this quickly. Extrude out again, extrude out again. Let's go in here and grab this line. And blow that out just a tad. Grab this line, pull that in a little bit. Alright, our guy is not looking too hot right now, but that's okay. Let's grab these faces, let's extrude downward. Grab these verts down here, pull it in for a little bit of body definition. Now let's grab both of these and let's pull them in a little bit closer together. Now what we're going to do is, actually I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to delete all of these faces from the middle here. So you go ahead and hit delete and you can go just faces, and that'll leave you a nice cutout there. And we're going to try and do that fill tool again here on it, and hopefully that'll look a little more clean now that we've worked. So we should be able to grab this line, this corresponding line, these top two, and if we hit fill, it should give us a nice little face right here that covers the whole thing. And it does not. Nothing. It's totally unresponsive when I go to fill, which is driving me crazy. Rip fill does not help. Okay. I don't know why that doesn't fill. That's just driving me. Yeah, I could do that. That might help. That's a good idea. So you can grab this bottom vertice and this bottom vertice, right, with shift. We'll connect them both, and you hit Alt M. You can merge them at center.
Yeah, there's something weird.
Yeah, I got extra vertice here. Okay, that's okay. That's easy to deal with. So let's just select all of that. Let's merge that at the center, but still is missing.
Increase your the search size.
First. For whatever reason, that's really strange. We got multiples over here. That's okay. If you guys are in the same boat with multiples, you just separate the vertices, and then you're going to want to merge them by using Alt-M. And I'll merge them together here. But that might be why I was unable to fill that face. Control F to bring up the face menu. No, it still doesn't work. I don't know. I do not know. This is driving me crazy. Okay, well, we can do it the old school way. This is how I originally thought this is how you made faces. You just take them all and you merge them all at center, which is ideally not the best, but oh, sorry about that. Here's this at center. Now let's just merge this one forward with that, like so. Oh, you know why? I think it was because I was working with because my original sphere did not have the proper amount vertices with it. It was an odd number, not an even number, and that's why my dimensions are looking a little janky. But that's okay. Alright, so now we have a very rough outline of his body. What I like to do is, when I'm at this stage, grab the head and move it just a little bit forward, so it kind of gives it a feel that this is the front and this is the back. Helps you distinguish it when you're modeling it. Let's go back in here. Let's grab all of this down here. Even that one, even though it's a little off. And we're going to extrude down. Although we're not going to extrude, the region. We're going to extrude individuals. It's going to allow us to bring this down. The nice thing about extruding individuals is that it will allow us to separate these two things, which in turn we can then turn into legs. So it's a very so definitely make note of these two different types of extrude. There's an extrude region, which is going to take the whole thing and it's going to bring it out as one individual object, versus extrude individual, which does exactly like it says. It'll take the individual objects up and extrude them. So for example, if you want to make legs this way, it's a very, I guess, efficient way to do it. It's pretty clean. But let's grab these legs. Let's actually make them a little bit shorter. I extruded them down a little bit too far. So let's put them up a little bit. From here, now we're going to want to extrude region from these two guys, because we're not going to want to separate anything more. I'm just making this arm a little bit longer. This is a little, it's maybe a little bit better. This guy's got a huge head. Okay. Alright, so I mean, more or less, this is going to be the really quickly crappy model that we're going to be working with today. But that's okay, because you don't need a complex model at all, by any means. Just have some fun with it. Now what we're going to do is animating. So what we want to do for that is we want to add these things called bones to it. And then down here we have this little timeline, which is going to show us keyframes of our animations. A lot of people will use this to do it, which it works for sure, but you can grab this corner, and this is what I do. I like to grab this corner, I like to drag it up, and I like to make this timeline as more or less as little as possible because, because I only want to be able to do play, more or less just the play. I mean, these other functions, you know, backwards or speed up or skip to the next frame, they're nice, but I don't really be using them that much. But what I'm going to be working in is a dope sheet, and this is going to give you the individual bones themselves and where they are interacting on which frame that they're interacting on. So let's go back up to here, let's go to add, and then just like how we added in a new mesh, it's right in the same little area, but we're going to go to armature, we're going to add single bone. That's going to put this little thing down here called a bone, which is really cool, allows a lot to work with, and from here we're going to open up this little side panel, and you'll have a whole bunch of options up top. What I like to do when working with bones, and especially when doing animating, is you click this little armature button here, and then you want to hit the X-ray button, and that's going to allow us to see our bone no matter where it is, even if it's in the middle of our mesh. You can still find it, which is going to be very, very helpful. So let's just do one bone for the backbone, and then we're going to go in edit mode of that bone, and we're going to extrude this bone out to make a new one. And we'll do that will be like upper back, I guess. Now let's turn on, now we're going to do this other cool thing that Blender has, is this x-axis mirror, which will do anything that we do along any bone movements that we change along the x-axis will be automatically applied to, it'll mirror the x-axis. hence the name x-axis mirror. So we're going to go here, we're going to extrude from here, we're going to go across, or everything I just said about x-axis mirror does not seem to be right. Okay, so scratch that. X-axis mirror does nothing for us at the moment, so that's okay. We'll just do both sides individually. Alright, so we're going to want to extrude again. We're going to extrude over here. This is going to be the upper arm. Extrude one more time here. This will be the lower hand. I'll extrude to the left. More or less the exact same thing. So on and so forth. Extrude those out. Another thing I like to do is go back into edit mode of my object, because you want the bones more or less to connect with each other at the intersects of the vertices, right? So you see we got these vertices here. We're gonna want this bone to be more or less like, see how it's not really lined up very well. We're gonna just want to line up this bone, so we're gonna go back into object mode with tab, click on the bone, then go into edit mode of that, click on this bone joint and pull it in a little bit just to kind of even that out. And let's see how that looks. Yeah, way better. Okay, and another nice little trick you can do is you can layer things. So let's grab these bones, for example, and let's move them to layer 2. So that way, when we're working with just our mesh, we don't have to deal with those bones being in our face. And then we can easily or we can go just only to the bones by selecting layer 2. This is our layer option panel down here. And we can shift click and have them both open at the same time, which is what we'll primarily be doing today. Alright, so let's go back into edit mode. Let's just keep on extruding. That's the name of this game. Extrude this guy up and down. Extrude this one down here. Do the same thing to the other side. Okay, now let's keep on extruding. Let's go up and let's make his neck. And let's extrude up and let's make his head. Okay, now that our guy's fully boned, there's also other really cool things in Blender. You can import fully made bones of people. So you literally will just have the entire bone of like a whole fully rigged humanoid bone figure just laid out for you, which you can just import, and Blender has those already pre-made, which can be really nice if you're making a exact representation of a human. But for an example like this, it has everything. It has even the fingers. It has like 3 bones per each finger, and the more bones you have, that's just the more memory that's going to be used when you're running these animations. So the more basic you can make it, the better it'll be. And typically with game design, you want more or less as basic of meshes as you can make, but the real detail will come in the texturing, and that's where you really get those really nice looking meshes that have really full detail and life brought to them. So now that we're done here, we're going to go back into object mode. We're going to want to click on our bones and then shift click onto our body. And then we're going to make this a parent with automatic weights. Select that. Select parent to the object. And now when we go into our bones, we're going to have this awesome little option here called pose mode. And what this basically has happened is that all the vertices of our mesh are now correlating to certain parts of the bone, right? So if I go, oh no, it did not. Oh crap! Now after I said all that, sorry, give me a second here. Go back to object mode. Click on the bones. was having this issue earlier, actually. I was trying to, man, I don't know. Maybe I didn't learn Blender good enough because I learned it through using keybinds, and then they changed everything, and now a lot of the functions don't work. So.
Using standard Blender, like standard Blender keys. It sounds like a lot of your.
There's a lot of carryover between the Maya. Oh, it's not like their Maya mode is just a Maya mode. It's not, all the key bindings aren't the same as Maya. They're just a loose representation of what it should be. And I'm sure there's a lot of carryover between Maya mode and Blender mode. Okay, let's try this again. Let's go back to make parent, automatic weights, here we go, okay, armature to form, automatic weights. Okay, it's still not connecting. Give me 1 second here, guys. Don't want to have to make this over again, but I might have to. Welcome. Alright, I'm just going through and I'm clearing the parents, just so let's try and do this over again. Okay, now let's try resetting the parent, and this should be setting it with automatic weights now. Yeah, alright, there we go. So now each of these bones has been assigned a number of vertices throughout this guy's body. So this is what it's actually going to allow us to start animating him. As you can see, now we can actually make him do stuff, more or less, right? I mean, I can just lift his arm, and we can give him a nice little, like, make him wave or whatever. We can make him, like, rock out. So what we're going to do now is actually to make the animations themselves. Remember, there was this dope sheet that I was telling you guys about that'll be down here, and we have this timeline also that's right here. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to hit this little red button that'll actually enable the keyframe recording. And the first thing I like to do with all of my meshes, because Blender's kind of weird about this, is move every single bone on the very first keyframe. Because if bones aren't moved, then you'll think you made this really cool animation, but then you'll go back and a bunch of the transformations that have happened of that animation will actually take the parent of what you recently have moved. If something doesn't move, if something hasn't been moved in a previous frame, or I guess the better way to say it is if you're moving a bone for the very first time, then wherever you're at in your animation, it'll take that transformation and it'll apply that. So yeah, so I like to just go through and move every bone at least once. I call it stretching out my mesh, which there might actually be a real technical term for it. I have no idea. Oh, and you can see down here we got some breaks on our vertices. I'll show you real quickly. There's the right way to do it. It's not the way I'll show you right now. The right way to do it will be actually going back into our mesh and physically connecting all of these dots.
There's actually there's a kind of a shortcut way. I had this problem wrote a long time ago. And you can select your entire mesh, and there's one thing you can do to remove doubles. And I was trying to figure out how to do it in your mode. I'm not sure.
Well, there's another little shortcut way you can do this thing called weight paint, which is any mesh that you make, you're going to need to weight paint it. I mean, if you want it to be a good mesh, and that's we'll go into the object mode of the mesh itself, right? And then you're going to go to this weight paint option. Blue means it has 0 weight. Red means it's fully weighted. So what we do here is we're going to grab this bone. I believe I also didn't name my bones. You also want to name your bones to what they're going to be. Like this would be, right leg, right lower leg, or whatever. So let's put this weight on 1, which is full. It just goes from 0 to 1, and then we're going to paint these vertices down here, right? Just literally as simple as that. Now let's grab the bone up above it. Now let's paint. We're going to make the radius a little bit smaller. We'll go to like a 14. Zoom in here, and let's get these guys all painted up. I like to put a weight of 0 for those parts that it's not going to be affecting at all. So we still got this kind of nasty looking cracks here, but that's okay. We will deal with that. Actually, we won't deal with that because this is just going to be a very basic practice mesh. But for now, I'll just get these weight paints here.
The text editor.
Oh, really? Wow. They made that a lot harder. It used to be literally a button you click. Okay. Okay, so now that we're weight painted enough, right? Now we can go in here and we can actually start animating based off of keyframes. So let's try and work like a simple walk animation. I'm going to go, every number down here, the 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, these are frames. And these are the frames that will be called, every single keyframe that is called. It typically, very standard is 24 frames a second. That's what a lot of standardized places work with. I like to try and do I just base it about 20. I would say my movement animation I would want to be, we'll do probably a total of 40 frames because it'll be 2 seconds worth of walking, right? So we're going from 20, we'll start at 20 and we'll go to 60. So let's start at 20. Let's just start him off with his normal stance, just how he's going to be standing in the real world. Some droopy arms, some super long arms. This guy looks crazy. Okay. Make him hella sad to start off with, because he doesn't have anything going on with his life. He's saddened. Oh, but I can already tell this is gonna pose a problem. Okay, I'm gonna go back into weight paint real quick. I'm gonna grab his main bone here, and I'm gonna unpaint all of the stuff that he is connected to, just because that will cause some gnarly problems for us. Back to object mode, and click back on your armature, and now let's start animating. Okay, so for his walk, right? I mean, we're gonna just try and make it look like he's walking as best as possible. So let's go about 5 frames, and let's start adding in the first movements. And he can start lifting his head up a little bit because, you know, he's moving now. He's got life going. He's got some blood flow. Yeah, we'll give him a little head bob effect as he walks.
He would know. It looks like it's walking correctly. So as easy as it seems sometimes.
It seems easy.
I thought it. I mean, when I first did it, I was like, "Oh, it'll be easy. Just make it look like he's walking." But it's not. It's not an easy task. But nothing in game design is really an easy task. But if it was, I guess everyone in the world would do it, right? Yeah, this didn't get moved for some reason. That's why I was looking all crazy there for a second. Oh, wow, yeah. Yeah, for sure. Oh, that's bad. There's no vertices. It's such a low face count model. It's not even what I might be able to do though. Okay, whatever. I mean, it's not. I'm not making this look pretty. I'm making it for learning opportunity purely. Okay. Well, I guess the meeting has officially ended. If anyone's got to go, I totally understand. But by all means, if you guys want to hang out, feel free. But I'm just going to keep doing this. I'm going to get this. My idea is to hopefully get this animated enough to where I can implement it, and then we'll get it loaded up in Unity, and then I'll write a very, very simple script to move him around and to animate him.
Just run that script that I sent you so that...
I'll worry about that later. I'm not going to even deal with that right now. It would, but it's I don't want to go through the hassle. I'll have it next week. We'll probably go back in Blender and do a little bit more work. So much of work that's done in all of game design will be done in 3D modeling. There's so much art that goes into it. I say that resentfully because I'm not an artist. I wish I could just program everything. I mean, because you could. We can make a Sudoku, right? When we talked about making Sudoku last week. Yeah, I'm going to put it up. It's going to be in a FLV format, though, on YouTube, which apparently is not of that good of quality. I would really like to have a way to convert that to like an MP4, because that would run the best. But I don't know how. I'm going to look into it. I'm sure there's a way. I would not be surprised. Your XSplit? That might be better, because OBS is not the best. I mean, ideally, every stream is supposed to be saved on Twitch, and you're supposed to be able to go back and watch people's past broadcasts, but I haven't been able to do that lately, so I don't know if it's...
They changed it so that it gets deleted after 3 days.
Oh, is that it?
You have to be partnered and you can save it for like a month.
Oh, really?
Highlights, and then you can do highlights, but they're only like 2 hours at a time.
Yeah, see you next week. Thanks for coming.
They're saved indefinitely, but it's still perfect.
Yeah, see you next week.
Well, yeah.
There's no YouTube channel at the moment. I will have one up and running though, with all of our videos, including our one from the very first day. Alright, so let's continue on. Oh shoot, sometimes I do this. Move the wrong arms forward. Whoops.
Pretty good though.
Pretty good isn't a very relative term, I understand. Pretty good isn't did this in about 20 minutes or so. Yeah, this is a pretty bad mesh. If I was, if it got to this point where we were like, all right guys, we're making this game, someone go home and make a mesh, and they came back the next day and they're like, this is what I got. I'd be like, yeah, we're gonna have to remake that. Sure, yeah, I got a few, I think. Oh, maybe not on this computer, actually. I should have thought about that ahead of time. Almost all of my assets are on my desktop. Yeah, that's too extreme. I mean, well, maybe like at the end when I'm done with this, I can show, because then it'll be like have a little more respect for things that we can do. Alright, now what I usually do is kind of cheating. So I'll grab this keyframe, right? This middle keyframe that's between the two walking. And I'll grab this and I'll duplicate it. And I'll bring it to this frame. And then I will probably grab this one, duplicate it again, bring it here, grab this frame, duplicate it, bring it here. Now let's look from 20 to 50. This should be a very crappy basic walking animation. Oh yeah, see how buggy that is though? Clear that up a little bit, but oh yeah, that looks bad. Actually, give me just 1 second. I'm gonna use the bathroom real quick. I'll be right back, and then we'll fix it.
Is there any questions for this?
I just need to go back and learn this on my own.
Yeah.
Never worked with this before.
And there's a ton of awesome resources. Yes. Try to have this somehow like that YouTube tutorial. You guys really hits on a few points. And he's doing a series right now. That's because his original movies were like an hour long. I want to follow. Just because it's not an advanced, you can just start out using it, and it gives you a great idea. But it's trying to follow the sense if you're new, he's going to quickly so much. And how a video took me like 5 hours to sit here because you pause, you do it yourself, and you make your way through. So he's got a bunch of online awesome. He's doing once you have the ability to create your human model, you're able to create all sorts of stuff.
All right, back. So let's slowly, we'll slowly pace through this, and we'll find the big errors. That's what makes it look like it's really not walking well. Okay, so that head bob is definitely not working well. Let's make this keyframe. Let's move it. Maybe we won't move it because I cannot do that, apparently. We can duplicate it though, move it forward and then just delete it. Alright, so let's try going from 25 to 45. This might look a little more natural. Well, sort of, except for that weird arm bow out thing that happens, like, what's happening out here? Okay. So we can go into this keyframe, we can toy around with it a little bit. It just pops it out there, it's like he's trying to punch somebody or something. Oh yeah, you're right. Thank you for noticing that. Yeah, if you hold Alt and scroll wheel on the keyframe, it will also change the keys for you. So if you're holding Alt to move around, and then you're trying to zoom in and out, it'll move your keyframes. So just keep that in mind. That's okay. It should just create it on the same frame that it's happening. It should just save it. It should know. Alright, still not that great. Now he just kind of does this little shoulder dance. He has some super head bobbing, but I think it might just because he has this huge head. Where does it go way down at? I guess here is where it's most down at. That's okay, we can lift it just a little bit there. Oops. Lift it just a little bit here. And lift it a little here. I just slammed it down. Might be. Maybe that's just why. Yeah, that'll be good enough for now. Okay, so now we have a walking animation, right? So now we can take this file, let's save it as a Blender file, a .blend, and let's just call it like, actually I'm going to throw this on my desktop, we'll just call it like basic guy .blend. Save that. Now we're going to go into Unity. I'm going to change some settings here. Take off Blender. And we're going to import a new asset into Unity. So I've saved it on my desktop, right? So let's go down here. Let's open up this basic guy .blend. And we can drag and drop him into here, right? That's pretty cool. Now let's give him like a basic ground just to walk on. I'm just gonna make a cube. I don't want to make it huge. Okay. Zoom back on our guy. Make sure that he's not underneath this platform. Okay, good. And what you want to do is you want to go into, now Unity's, we're going to be working almost exclusively in Unity in terms of actual working in the game engine. Unity's cool because it has these things, you can directly import these meshes, right, and then it'll save them as the mesh file. And then once you bring them into the scene, then you get this little thing over here, which is the scene representation of it, which has a lot of different elements to it. And then from here you can take this part and you can drag it back into where the actual mesh is, and now it's what's considered a prefab or a prefabricated object. And there's a lot of stuff we're going to be doing with prefabs. Almost everything that we do, to some degree, will be used through some kind of prefab that we've created. So the way we're going to access the animations is we got to go into the actual file itself. It's also really good to keep these organized. You know, you can right click on your assets and you can create a new folder, and we can say like meshes, right? Meshes folder. And we can take our original mesh and we can put it in there. And you know, we can maybe make another folder and call it like prefabs. Let's take our prefab guy and we'll put it in there. Let's go to our mesh, and then we go over to animations. Or actually, first off, we're going to go and we're going to change its rigging type. Its animation type will be of legacy, and we're going to apply that. And we're going to want to go to here in his animations. This is where we're actually going to access the animation that we just created, which is only from the 25th frame to the 45th frame. And I might need to actually re-export this. Maybe. We don't want to use the default take. We want to use an armature action. And let's call it walk. And then we're going to set its frames from 25 to 45. And then down in here we have this little inspector thing we can view just to make sure that that's actually what we wanted. So 25 to 45, make sure it looks the way it did. And it does. It doesn't look great, but it looks good enough, right? Cool. So that's working there. Now this mesh, right? I'm actually going to delete it. I'm going to delete that prefab, the original prefab. I'm going to delete that too. Now I'm going to re-import this mesh, because now we see over here in animations we have this little drop-down list, and actually all of this drop-down list is actually just an array. This is an array inside of this object called an animation, which would just be a script. So this animation just has a public level access array, which is just called the animations, and inside here you can access all of the different animations that you have made for your guy. You know, we could also do like a shooting animation or a punching animation, or you know, whatever. So in order to call that, let's make a new folder and we'll call this scripts. So in here we're going to want to do create. No, yeah, that was right. We're going to want to create. I like to work in C#, JavaScript. You can do that too. It's all the same. We'll just call this walk around. We'll fire that up. Let's make sure. MonoDevelop is the IDE that Unity uses, which is it's really good. It's a nice, powerful IDE, and I highly recommend it for anybody. So we're gonna need to make them walk around. Now let's just do. We'll do some basic inputs, right? So we're gonna do like if input. I cannot type dot get button down of walk. I'm going to make a walk bool and we're going to set that to true. So, or if input, actually let's not call it walk. Let's do the input. We'll call it. We'll do like a forward, right? Forward makes sense. And we're going to want to set forward equals true. We're going to need to make a few fields here. Actually, we can set this public for now. Start function is a function that is called at the beginning of this script being initialized. The start function is the first thing that will always be called. The update function is a function that's going to be called once per frame. Hence, I mean, it'll have these little comments here. So in start, I like to set all my movements my movement states to false. We'll also have a forward. Look, I might as well just do it now. Backward, left, and right. And we can set all these to false. We can also set it to false in the original initialization of them up here, but I like to do it in the start function because that way you know that for a fact it will be getting called. Alright, so now that we have this forward bool and we can toy around with it here a little bit, we can say if forward, I'm going to use GameObject dot transform dot translate, sorry, capital T, translate, new vector 3 forward. Forward would be represented as 0, 0, 1, right? Because you're going 1 forward on your Z axis. Oops, and I'm missing a parenthesis there. Okay, now we should be able to move forward. We can also do, oh shoot, sorry, 0, 0, 1, which vector 3, 0, 0, 1 is the same as you can just write vector 3 dot forward, and it knows that the forward is 0, 0, 1 location of a vector 3. So now what we're going to do is we're going to need to go back into the game itself, get to our basic guy, we're going to add this component, script, the walk around script, right? And now the next thing we have to do in order to get that actually working is we're going to go up into the Edit tab, into Project Settings, and into Input. And now this is how we're going to basically set up our initial keybinds. I like to always add to this. Again, this is axis. This is as an array of these different axes that you can work along. And you can change the array in this public modifier right here to whatever size you want. So I'm just going to use 16 for now. I'm going to change this name to forward. And we can say its positive button will be W or up, I guess, on the arrow keys. And yeah, okay, so now that that's set, we should be able to, oh, except I messed up my script here somewhere. Oh, I did not save it, is that why? Okay, so now that I've set up this initial keybind so we can move forward, we should be able to, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't even set up the camera on him though. Unity's nice because it has this built-in camera that you can kind of just, you can start with. Give it a little bit of an angle to it. Let's center it on the guy. And you just drag it and drop it, and now it becomes a child object. So wherever this basic guy moves around, the camera is also going to move around in relation to him, which is nice. However, oh, I guess, and then I'll add in a light. Lights are cool too because they make it super easy. So much stuff in Unity is really easy. You can add in this directional light, which is quite simply that. It's just a directional light. It's like, imagine a sun, for example, would be basically that. Yeah, right here. There's all these different things you can change inside the inspector. The inspector is in a default layout, which is what I use for Unity. You have your inspector here on the right hand side, and for every object inside of its inspector, it has its own little unique properties that you can change around, you know, so on and so forth. And yeah, just like Art said, you can change its intensity, which won't really be too noticeable here at this point in time because we're not doing much. However, now we should be able to, he is moving. You can't actually tell that he's moving though because there's nothing in the world that shows it. So let's just do this. Let's create just a basic material and let's color it green. And now let's take that green, let's put it on this cube, just as a reference point, so we can see that we're walking. And now let's copy it and let's put it all over the place. See, now we're moving forward, right? So it's as simple as that to get moving. And now we can go in here and we can say if, because I think how it's currently set up is, yeah, so unfortunately we haven't set it to stop moving forward in any given certain circumstances. So we're going to say, I'm just going to do else if input.get button up, which is, as you would guess, the exact opposite of get button down. Get button up forward equals false. And now it'll stop us moving as soon as we lift up on our W key. Pretty cool, huh? Now let's make them move left and right. Forward, back, left, right. So basically all we're doing right now is we're just creating movement states. Oops, that's wrong. Creating movement states so to represent obviously where they are moving and how they're moving. Do you guys have any questions about any of this stuff, or does this all make pretty good sense to you guys for the most part? All right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can't stress enough how important it is that you just do exactly that. I mean, you just got to do it, and it's the kind of thing to where you can watch a million videos and thousands of tutorials all throughout all aspects of it, but until you actually just sit down and you really try to just have at it, that should be right, not back. You know, you're never really going to learn it that well. I mean, there's a lot of little ends that you can, tricks that you can put in there. Forward, left, right, okay. So what we can do here is instead of doing vector 3, 0, 0, 0, negative 1, we can do transfer to translate vector 3 dot back. That's the exact same thing as if I was to write vector 3, if I was to do a new vector 3 of 0, 0, negative 1. So if left, we could either do vector 3 of negative 1, 0. Right. All right, now with this setup, we should, unless I don't know my vector 3 orientation that well, which oh wait, no, we didn't set up, see, we didn't set up the input, the keybinds for it, so now it's going to take a super long time to try and register, because it doesn't understand. It's trying to ask itself like what is get button down left. It doesn't know, because get button down left has never been assigned. So see, I got these errors. See, input get button backwards. All of these errors are popping up right now. So easy, it's very easy to fix. You go back into our edit, project settings, input. Now we're going to need to add, okay, so we got forward at 16, so let's go to 19, we'll add 3 more, forward, backward. Positive button will be S or down. We got left, positive button will be A. or left, and we have right. Positive button, LED, or right. Okay. Now when we run it, we should be able to move around freely. Yay! We see we can go. Now it's cool, right? We actually are sort of working in the game now. Now to call that animation, it's super easy. What we're going to do is we're going to throw in one more little conditional down here at the end of every update. We're going to want to say if left or right or forward or backward. I mean, more or less if moving, right? But we don't have a moving variable yet. We're going to do animation.play walk. Walked capital W? I don't remember if we capitalized it or not. Should have capitalized it. Go back in our basic guy, make sure that all works out good. Okay, walk. Now it should just be walking. Obviously, I mean, he doesn't turn yet. That's okay. That's next. And then we can say if, I guess I didn't make an idle animation for him, but that's easy to change. We could just go in here and look at our keyframes, right? We want to say what's like a good idle. Should he just stand here with his head down? I think that'd be a good idle. Keyframe 20. So we're going to go in here, not to our mesh, or not to our prefab, but to our mesh. The original mesh, we're going to want to go in here. We're going to go back to the animations, click the little plus sign to add a new one. And we want to make sure its source take is an armature action. And we want to say idle. Right? We're going to start at 20 and we're going to go to 20.1. We can play that just to make sure it's all looks all gravy and that's how we want it to be. Moving ever so slightly, but it's not enough to where anyone will ever be able to tell. And then we're going to go back into here. Or actually no, because now that this is saved, we gotta go back into our basic guy. No, it'll apply it as soon as I go back into the scene. And now here we got this new element to our animations, right? Idle. See, it was added to the array. And now we can say if left or right or forward or backward, play the walking animation, else let's do animation.play. Actually, what we should do is animation.crossfade, and once we'll do that, it'll actually take the bones themselves and it'll actually try to work it into a way that it's like a smooth sort of animation. Animation.crossfade of idle. And we'll also do animation.stop walk. Although if I call the stop function, I probably don't need to do crossfade. We'll just change this back to play. Alright, now let's see. Cool, now he's standing there, he starts walking, stops walking. Now we're gonna have to turn him, and that's gonna be that's a whole nother challenge in itself. That's okay. So what we can do here is I've done this a few different ways. Probably the easiest. Oh yeah, sorry. Let me go back. Let me stop before movement, or I mean before rotation or anything. So see how I set all these to public? All of these instance fields to public. It's really cool in Unity. You can access them right here inside the inspector if you set them to public. So if you keep looking at, shoot, give me 1 second here. I'll maximize this. Keep looking at this game view. You can tell right here. You can see they're actually, you know, forward. It's becoming true, right? Left, right is becoming true. Left is becoming true. Back is becoming true. And it's nice because for testing purposes, a lot of times you want to set your instance fields to public just so you can kind of see what's happening within the environment and the actual game that you're working in. Yeah, so with that said, now what we're going to do is we're going to make a new public level field of a game object type, which is game object is a very loose term for just any object more or less that you're going to be having in the game world. So let's make this public game object and let's just call it mesh. And now from here we're going to have this new, oh I didn't save it, sorry. We're going to have this new field this new accessible field from right here, which is going to have this empty part right here. And what we can do is we can take this mesh, the actual mesh that we've been working in, we can take that and literally drag it and drop it right into here. And now from inside of our code, we can manipulate that mesh directly, which is really nice. Like if we wanted to like rotate it, right, for like 90 degrees to the left when he turns left, then we could just literally go mesh.rotate. The only problem with that is if you turn left, then your new left will be what backward was, if you guys are following that. I know it's a little confusing. There's little tricky ways around that, right? So we can add a new cube, and we can just call this cube like we'll call it player, right? Now we can take all of this and we can put it on this player object. Let's put this at 0, 0 on the player object though. And good. But actually what we're going to do is we're going to remove this walk around script altogether from this component, and we're going to put it on our new player, which still, oh no, okay, yeah, perfect. Now we'll have to take this basic guy, right, our mesh, and we'll throw that on here so it's accessible. And from here, now we're going to need, because now game object no longer has an animation, because now the game object that we're calling is just this cube. It's just a basic cube. It doesn't have anything to it. I mean, it's got a mesh renderer and a script and a collider, and that's literally it. So since we clarified our mesh beforehand, we can go straight down here, and all we got to do is put mesh dot animation dot play beforehand, because now we're just saying to that mesh, run your animation. Oh, that was bad. Run animation or stop animations or whatever. And now we should be back in the exact same spot that we were. Or we won't be. Yeah. Did not save it. See, now it looks all, I mean, more or less it looks the same. But the nice thing about this is now we can go here and we can make like a, we'll make a new function, right? And we'll just call it whatever, like rotate, or rotator. And inside here we're going to pass in, you can pass in I guess we'll just pass in an int, right? And then that int will be what we rotate by. And then we can say mesh dot transform dot rotate will always be rotating along the x-axis. So we're going to say num. Oops, sorry. We're going to want to say rotate new vector 3 num 0 0. Now when we call left, for example, we can say rotator of -90, right? We run. Oh no, actually this won't work exactly because rotating it back. What we can do though is we can create a new, whoa, that was weird. We can create a new field to get its original location, and then we can base it off of that. So what we'll do is we're going to say in the start, why do we have, let's say, actually let's make it a field first. Call quaternion. Quaternion is a, it's like a, it's sort of like a vector 3, but it's for rotations instead of for positions. Quaternions starting look. And I will say starting look equals mesh dot transform dot rotation, because that should be also a quaternion. Now every time we call our rotate function, we'll originally set our mesh to its starting location and we'll base it off of that. We can say mesh dot transform rotation equals starting loc. Okay, now let's see if I guess for backward we'll need to change that to rotator 180. Okay. I guess we'll call this also rotator 0, so we'll know. Alright, who thinks it's gonna work? I don't know about this one. Okay, let's see. No, oh god, it's not even working. It does not exist in the current context. Why are you not existent? Oh, because I put start log, not starting. It's a bad sign. It's the very first thing you do. It doesn't work. Okay. Oh no. Oh god. I don't even. Oh, I know why. Makes sense. Because the camera was based off of the mesh, not based off of the actual cube itself. So when the mesh was to turn, so was the camera. It was turning in response to that. So let's move the camera out and put it underneath just the player. Oh, he's not rotating on the right axis. Oh shoot. Yeah. Woohoo! Okay, let's change this. Yeah. Y. I think you're right. No, I don't know why my insert keeps getting pressed. I don't know what I'm hitting that's causing it, but alright, let's see if this fixed it. Yeah, alright, so now we got a guy who moves around, right? He does sort of works, but right, I mean, now you guys get a pretty good example of how this is supposed to be working. Now we can do, and we can add, we can go in here, do this player cube. Let's make it a little bit bigger, right? So it's at least like a decent representation of the player. You can grab these, this thing, what I'm controlling right now is this cube. It's called the cube collider. It's what this cube will collide with in real world visual and inside this simulation. So you can make this guy have a little collider so he collides like with the ground, for example. That's why he doesn't, if I was to get rid of the box collider on the ground, then he will fall straight through. Oh no, he won't because he doesn't have weight. Sorry. If I go back into the player and I go to down here to add a component and I go into physics, rigid body, I can add that directly onto this guy and then I'll give him a mass, I'll give him the drag, I'll give him, you can constrain him so he won't rotate funky positions or anything. But now if we put this way up in the air, we hit play, he should just fall down to the ground. But it'll probably fall through the ground. Oh no, it didn't fall through the ground. Oh, because I took that back on. So if I'm to get rid of the collider of the ground, now he'll fall straight through the ground because his collider is not colliding with anything else. So he's going to fall to eternity, and that's not good. So yes, definitely want to have the ground collider turned on. I'll go back into this guy. For whatever reason, I don't know why he's not. Why he's kind of falling through the ground. Okay, so it looks like this needs to go down a little bit. It's about there. There we go. Now he's actually on the ground as he should be. Slightly twitching out every so often. That's funny. Okay, now we can go and we can add. Now that he has a rigid body to where he's able to run into things, we can go and we can take all these little cubes, all these little green cubes, and we can go and since they all have colliders, we could put them in like interesting little places, and we could make that into a small little game, you know, or like we could turn this into a maze because you can't go through this. Oh my gosh. So this is why you want to constrain the rigid bodies. If you freeze his position, actually, I think you can freeze his position and his rotation along all things since we're accessing it directly through a script. Yeah, he won't fall. So let's not freeze his Y position so he can fall. And now I should be able to run, oh, not run through boxes. Oh, because I'm not freezing position, exactly. Okay, we'll let him freeform his position, but we'll keep his rotation stuck, so he can't rotate all crazy and won't have that problem like we did earlier. So now he's moving insanely fast, but he can't move through objects, which is sort of the point. We do run across this problem where we'll start running and he can kind of get pushed back a little bit. That's really easy to fix. You can just increase this drag, maybe to like 2 or something.
Any changes you make to the inspector while the game is running will revert back to what they were. So you should stop.
For example, in this inspector, how I just changed the rigid body to 2, since I'm currently running the game, it's only doing an in-game change. So as soon as I stop actually running the application itself, you'll see it reverts back to 0, which is huge headache. If you're sitting here and you're like, oh man, I designed all these changes and I made this huge, like for my Robot Ninja game, right, that I was telling you guys about. I built an entire level while the play mode is on, and then I didn't realize that, and I turned it off, and it was oh god, and I was like, no! I seriously spent like an hour making this level, and for all of it, literally the whole thing just get erased. So keep that in mind when you guys are working on it, because it sucks if you had to go back through and remake everything. So that's this is your basic character controller. Now, if we wanted to add like a jump, for example, we could just make a new. Just have to make a new Boolean. Really, these should all be private. The only one that should be public is public game object, because that's something that we're actually accessing in the inspector here, because we're dragging and dropping a mesh onto it. We should make all of these private. It's nice to be able to see them, but there's just no reason for it. So I'm going to go ahead and just do that real quick. Then we'll get like just a really simple jump, and then I think that's going to be all I'm going to do today, since I'm probably going to have to redo all of this now for the people who weren't here. C#, it is private by default. Yeah, I mean, I guess I could just put bool here. I don't actually have to say private bool. But JavaScript, if you guys decide to work in JavaScript, that default is set to public. So if you don't specifically state private in JavaScript, you'll have all of these will not be visible, or they will be visible, I mean. Oh no, what did I do? Maybe it doesn't even have it. Yeah, but I have semicolons everywhere. I don't know why. Maybe it does want to be private. I have to actually say that. Pretty sure you do not have to with C#, but I don't know. I'm not a C# expert by any means. Interface member declaration. Oh, because I don't have a name for him. Oh, I feel so stupid. It's always like the most dumb common things you could make. I was wondering, I was like, that looks weird, but I don't know why. Yeah, it's because we're working with instance types that we're not used to working with, right? We're all used to working with ints and bools, and we're not used to working with game object. That's a new one for us all. Okay. So now we're going to do a new if input dot get button down of jump. Jump equals true. And we also need to say if, oh yeah, sorry. I'm also going to say that if jump we can go I'm just going to throw this out here and see if it works. Rigid body dot add force 0 1,000. So if jump, all right. Whoa, what am I doing? Put in a timer. I'm not actually doing a timer for now. We will probably will have to put one in. I'm hoping I can avoid that, but I need to set jump to false at some point in time. But actually, it won't even be like a on get button up. It'll be after a certain amount of time, because then we can, now this is more or less flying. And then we have to go in and set jump to be of something. Although jump already exists a lot of times. Whoops. You can go here and we'll just say positive button is space. Space bar. Oh gosh damn it. I gotta look up the API real quick. I don't want to use get key. I can. Get key works totally fine too. Oh, there it is. Key code API. No, I didn't capitalize it. That's probably why. So inconsistent. No, it doesn't like that. The actual name it says is space, and it's a representation of space key. The variable should be space. Maybe it's because I have to reference it directly as keycode.space. Well, we could use get key down keycode.space, but I guess we'll do that. Get key down keycode.space. Alright, so now we should be able to jump, well, more like fly, because you can just hold space now and you should be able to fly around in the sky. We'll see. We'll see if this even works. I guess we don't need to reference that anymore because we're directly doing the key code. Alright, we have liftoff! Whoa, let's give him a lot more mass though, so he's falling way too slow. Let's give him like, let's make him like 100 pounds or something. Or 100 mass, I guess. Although, according to physics, right, all things fall at the same speed, so I guess it won't make much of a difference. Right? Isn't that a thing?
Yeah.
I've never taken physics. Okay, well that's cool. Now he doesn't jump because he weighs so much. But so now we have a very, very basic little jump we can do for this guy. Probably what I would do to make this look a little bit better though is I would say it's form.translate divided by 3. It's just going to kind of give us, it's going to kind of slow him down a little bit because he's moving really, really fast at the moment. Yeah, that's a little better. He actually is kind of walking as he should be. Yeah, he can jump up on a box. Or he can't. What? Oh, because his mass is still 1,000. Still weighs so freaking much, he cannot even jump up on a box. Whoa! That's a problem, because since we're using add force to make him jump, it's as long as the spacebar is being held down, this game object is having force being, or this rigid body, I should say, is having force being added to it. So it's very, I mean, it does like a multiplicative effect, right? So if you hold it, he's just going to take off like a spaceship, and he's going to start flying. And, you know, you don't really want that, but, you know, for the most part. So now that's a very basic character controller. I mean, you're going to hear in the game world a lot of people talk about the character controller, and that's literally all that is. It's just a script that will control your character. I mean, some people have really extravagant ones, some people have very basic ones. I mean, this is definitely a very basic one. The jump doesn't even work, really. But, I mean, ideally what we would do is we would just enable that jump. We would have it enabled for a set amount of time, and then as soon as that jump gets enabled, we have a counter that would start going, and that would count maybe a second, maybe 2 seconds, and that would be his amount of jump time. And as soon as that jump time ends, it would set jump to fall, so you start falling. Or maybe we can even do like half a second or something really short, but maybe give it more force, so it looks like more of a projection, but less height overall. Yeah, sometimes you'll come around with really, really intricate character controllers, like my Robot Ninja character controller. I have you know, sprint, a double jump, and wall jumps, and all kinds of features that are cool, and it really helps add to it. But that's just basic. This is a very, very basic one, and yeah. So now I feel like you guys have a very, very basic tutorial that's probably sort of hard to follow and not the best one you can find online, but. You know, now you guys can toy around in Unity a little bit. It's super fun to toy around. I mean, once you get to like this stage to where you actually have someone you can move around with and you can actually kind of interact with, it just becomes so much more fun. And you just add features to that as we go. And yeah, hopefully next week comes around and we can add some more stuff to it and get it even more interesting. But that's all I'm going to do for today. I guess I'll save it. I'll save it as practice zone. Also, when you guys are working in Unity, don't start new projects. You almost never want to start a new project altogether. You just want to start a new scene. I mean, if you guys want, actually, I'll take this Unity project and I'll put it somewhere for you guys to access it. I don't know where yet. Maybe it'll be just like a Google Doc and you guys can all have access to it and we can all toy around with it a little bit. Yeah, true. I can just throw it on SourceForge so anyone can download it. That's a good point. Alright, but that is that. Oh, my video capture wasn't even on this whole time. That's okay. Hey guys! Ha! Thanks for joining my stream! That's that. Yeah, cool. Alright. There is the end. Thanks for watching.